Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Tom Murphy Show. Tonight we're going to be discussing a topic that all local municipalities are going to have to face in the upcoming year, 2 years, 5 years, and that's repair of our infrastructure, namely our sanitary sewers. No civilization survives for long unless they have a system for getting rid of their waste. Ours is very old. Most of it was built in the last century, and we're here to discuss tonight how we're going to fix that and how we're going to move forward and clean up the Long Island Sound with Tracy Brown, who's the director of the Western Long Island Sound programs. Tracy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
I know you're coming straight from Albany, where you were lobbying the government to get us some money to do this work.
Yep.
Can we? What is the mission of Save the Sound? Let's just start with that.
Okay. Save the Sound is a bi-state program of Connecticut Fund for the Environment. So we work in Connecticut and Long Island, or New York, to focus on making the Long Island Sound healthy, both for wildlife and for human use as well.
Okay. And what I was touching on before is what our sanitary sewers have done and are doing to the water quality in the sound.
Yeah.
You brought a great example here. This is a sewer lateral that comes from someone's house.
Yep.
And the top of it is cracked due to, would you say gases?
Fumes, yeah, just fumes and gas from sewage being in the line.
Wow. So, and when this happens, explain to us what happens.
So over time, metal pipes like this will crack, and clay pipes will also crack from pressure and decay. And two things can happen. One is that rainwater can get into the pipe and add to the flow that's going to through our collection system to a plant. And when you have too much flow in wet weather, then you have what we call sanitary sewer overflows, SSOs, where there's too much volume in the system and it starts to pop out in places like manholes are a common place where you'll see the raw sewage coming out.
This is all something we've experienced here in Mamaroneck.
Yes, this is a problem in Mamaroneck. You have way too much flow coming through your pipes going to the plants, and you have this problem in dry weather as well as wet, but usually it's in rain events when it gets so bad that it starts to come out and doesn't actually make it to the plant.
Right, or it overflows the plant. Not overflows the plant, but deluges the plant so much that they have to not do secondary treatment, they just do primary treatment sometimes.
They'll do that's right. They'll do the partial treatment and then they'll bypass. So usually they just kind of screen out the solids and chlorinate it and then send it out instead of doing the full treatment process.
Now, Mamaroneck has done some work over the years on the sanitary sewers, but right now I know the town of Mamaroneck, the New Rochelle Sewer District, we're going to enter into a consent agreement with the Department of Environmental Conservation to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And this work is going to be expensive, and I'm not complaining, it needs to be done, but as we were talking about off camera before, municipalities like the town of Mamaroneck, the village of Mamaroneck, Larchmont, when we start doing this work, we run up against the tax cap.
Yeah.
And the tax cap, for those who don't know it, is this arbitrary number that comes down from New York State that they say, unless you do certain things, you can't raise your taxes over this amount. So really, in my view, it's state representatives telling local people, oh, we kept your taxes down, but not doing anything to keep the taxes down, forcing it upon your local elected officials to meet this arbitrary number. But this is going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost millions and millions of dollars. And I know in a lot of municipalities it's going to blow the cap, and it's something, in my view, that's necessary. We have to do it. So there's no arguing about it. If you don't maintain your sewer system, you start getting cholera and you start getting, all kinds of nasty stuff that was wiped out, in the last century. But can Save the Sound, I know you're pressuring our elected representatives to try and get us some money to do this. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so back when the Clean Water Act was passed in the 70s and we really got serious about keeping our waterways clean, the federal government gave significant money to the municipalities through the states to build and expand wastewater treatment plants, to take care of the pipes, and a lot of the infrastructure we have today is from that era. Mm-hmm. Since then, with the small government movement, that money has just gone down and down and down and down. The real big decline started in the Reagan era, and it's just kept going since then. Now we're down to, cuts of more than 70% of what the type of money was that was originally provided. So in the interim, the states and the municipalities haven't really put into place a replacement funding stream. So what happened was these critical infrastructure elements that we rely on to keep ourselves safe and keep our environment safe and healthy and vibrant have just been going without repairs, and now we're very far behind. We've let things go so long that we have, pipes like this coming out of our homes, and we have these overflows. So there's two issues. One is, how do we get through that backlog? How do we catch back up? And that's the project that's going to cost, billions of dollars on the state level to get back to where we should have been if we were doing the maintenance.
Right. What we should be is a well-maintained system.
Yeah, not doing fixes and putting your finger in the dike, but actually doing the maintenance that you need so you're not dealing with breaks and catastrophes. Because it's always more cost effective to maintain. It's like having a car or a home. You put in the money as you go along, it saves you in the long run. So we have this problem of catching up. And then we also have the second problem, which is going forward now. We have to be honest with ourselves that this federal money isn't coming back, and we need to say, what's the long-term solution? How are we going to generate revenue for our wastewater infrastructure so we can get back in a good habit of maintaining and repair? So Save the Sound is working on two fronts, as are your municipal leaders. On the kind of big repair issue, I was in Albany today, lobbying for the governor's budget to include $800 million from this banking windfall. We had a banking settlement this year, which brought more than $5 billion into the budget in a one-time payout. So we'd like to see some of that money help us catch up. We're behind by about $12 billion across the state.
And just
in
to
repairs.
clarify, this is kind of found money that the state now has because of fines levied upon the big banks during the banking crisis.
Yeah, that's correct.
So this is
So it's a rare
Yeah.
opportunity to catch up. And, it's not all going to go to wastewater. We're hoping any of it goes to wastewater. And so it's not going to get us all the way there, but it could help deal with some communities that are really in a crisis
Let's
situation.
just touch upon, we know that when sanitary sewer overflows, it threatens the health of, our residents. But what does it do to the sound? Let's talk about the effect of our faulty sewer pipes on the sound in general, the apoxia and hypoxia.
Yeah. So when our wastewater gets into the waterways, there's a few different ways to measure the pollution impacts. Wastewater includes bacteria, which is what you hear about the most often because that's what they measure for opening and closing beaches.
Fecal coliform.
Yeah, so the
All
bacteria.
elected officials know that term
Yes,
now.
that's what's going to make us sick, and that's what's going to close your shellfish beds and make the shellfish unsafe for eating. It also contains nitrogen, and high levels of nitrogen is the pollutant that is creating problems in the sound, where basically it's a fertilizer, and it also gets into the sound from our lawns and our golf courses. And what it does is it stimulates algae blooms. It stimulates the growth of green materials. Algae develops, it dies, it falls to the bottom of the water column, and as it decays, it sucks the oxygen out of the water. So it can suffocate fish by creating dead zones of low oxygen where fish and crustaceans can't survive. And that's what we call the hypoxic zones. So our wastewater includes nitrogen, it includes bacteria, then it also includes what we call floatables. So you get debris, solid waste that will show up in the water, especially when you have a raw sewage overflow. And we also have pharmaceutical products, skincare products, things that come through our waste stream that
That
shouldn't
should
be
just be in the
going
sanitary-
directly
yeah.
into the sound.
Just so people understand, because I grew up in New York City where they have a combined sewer.
Yeah.
In these communities in Westchester, you have a sanitary sewer which comes out of your house, and then you have a storm system, and the storm system is really just everything goes into the streams and the rivers and then into the Long Island Sound.
Yes.
So usually that rainwater that goes into the sewer in the street, that's not supposed to be going to the sewage treatment plant.
That's correct. So one of the issues that you have here is when you have cracks in your pipes, and a lot of the pipes that still have cracks are the ones that connect private properties to the municipal lines. The municipal lines need regular maintenance and review. You have to televise and find where there's cracks and there's leaks and repair those. But that work has been happening periodically, not at the ideal pace, but it has been happening. The laterals, the private laterals to homes, have barely been touched at all. So that is a place where a lot of the stormwater is just getting right into the sanitary sewer line. So not only do you have overflows, where it basically will come out of a manhole and then go right into a storm drain and just go directly to our beaches or streams through the storm drain, but you also, for the extra volume that goes to the plant, you're processing rainwater. You're spending money and energy to clean rainwater, which actually should just be recharged directly into our lawns and into the aquifer.
You know, there's a good example I always use. In Harbor Island Park, on the corner of Orienta Avenue and Boston Post Road, there is a county pump station, and it has 5 pumps. And on a normal day, 1 pump is operating. On a really severe event, you have all 5 operating. Now, rain or no rain, actually, you should only have 1 pump operating under any circumstance. So that's, you know, at least 5 times the volume of a regular day on a severe rain event. And that's, as you said, we're just paying to process rainwater, which we shouldn't be processing at all.
Yeah, it's just a waste of energy, and you're putting your greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and you're taking water that we need in the aquifer. So a part of the solution, you know, there's repairing the infrastructure that connects our private businesses to the town lines. That's critical, and that's something Save the Sound is working on. I could tell you more about that if you're interested. And there's looking at the town lines, the municipal lines, keeping them in order. There's the plant and taking care of the plant, but there's also the stormwater itself and making sure that we are not a community that it has all hard surfaces, so that every time it rains, our water just goes immediately into a catch basin and right out to the Sound. Because we really need that water to be recharging the aquifer. And when you have runoff that just goes right from the clouds into the water, you're taking all that debris.
You're cleaning the street.
You're cleaning the street with the rain. So that's also something we need to address.
One of the things we are talking about in the town of Mamaroneck is passing a law that when you sell your property, you will have to have your lateral inspected. And if your lateral is in bad condition, it'll have to be fixed before you sell the property. So just take care of situations like that. So we're trying to be proactive, which I'm sure the real estate agents aren't going to love, but
well, you raise an interesting point. There is another aspect to that program that we've been discussing with the town of Mamaroneck and the village of Mamaroneck, which is, in addition to requiring that there be a moment where the laterals are inspected and certified as being in working order, and the transfer of property is a logical time for that, there is also the possibility of setting up a contract for the town to contract a vendor. And this has been done successfully in Long Beach, out on Long Island, and in Boston and Baltimore and other communities, where the vendors have equipment where they can do mostly trenchless repairs. So you get a vendor, a master plumber.
It's like a slip lining?
Who can go in and do lining, so they're not digging up your front lawn. You know, it's a company with the latest equipment. You create a monthly fee that people pay. In Long Beach, it's $8.99 a month. And you have to do it for a minimum of 5 years. And for that amount of monthly commitment, you can have them come in at any time, inspect your line with the televising technology where they go through and look to see if there's cracks and do a complete repair.